It was a cold, gray morning in late February, 1957. Along the wooded edge of Susquehanna Road in the quiet neighborhood of Fox Chase in Philadelphia, a rabbit trapper noticed something odd: a large cardboard box, abandoned in the underbrush. Inside, the body of a small boy, naked, bruised, malnourished, wrapped in a faded plaid blanket, placed in a bassinet box from J.C. Penney. He was between 4 and 6 years old, his hair recently cut, nails neatly trimmed, signs someone had cared enough to groom him, but then violently cut off and left to die. His body bore scars, surgical marks, multiple bruises, and signs of severe malnutrition. The community was shaken. A child this young, whose identity was unknown, his voice silenced, yet his image plastered on flyers and utility bills across towns asking, "Who were you? Why were you here?" The local paper would later call him America's unknown child, for he seemed to belong to no one. For decades the case haunted investigators, the community, the memory of this little boy. His anonymity magnified the tragedy, a child abandoned not only in body but in name. Decades passed. Leads poured in. Thousands of tips. Psychic dreams. The foster home whispers. The carnival worker rumors. The out-of-state pleas. Yet all ended in dead ends. And then, nearly 65 years later, came a quiet but powerful shift. In late 2022, the Philadelphia Police Department announced that the little boy had finally been named, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13, 1953. For the first time, the boy in the box had a name. A small victory in a sea of questions. As one detective said, "This only closes one chapter while opening another." That revelation echoed through the city. The unknown child finally got his name. But the larger truth, what happened to him who did this, remained in the shadow. Slow motion. Flashbacks. The scene returns to February 25, 1957. A box in the woods. First responders arrive. They see the small boy wrapped in the blanket inside the box. The box had held a baby bassinet, J.C. Penney printed across the lid. The medical examiner noted, the boy had been bathed before death, cleaned, his hair freshly cut, nails trimmed. But also bruises, malnutrition, surgical scars, on his ankle, groin, chin. Phones ring. Leads come in. Posters plastered. A man's blue corduroy cap. A child's scarf. A handkerchief with a letter G. But none led. For decades the investigation circled. Lead after lead. A woman claimed in 2002 that the boy had been purchased by her mother in 1954, called him Jonathan. He vomited baked beans, died in a rage. The police found the claim credible but couldn't conclusively link it. Then came the genealogical breakthrough. Investigators exhumed the boy's remains in 2019, extracted DNA, matched distant relatives on public genealogy databases, uncovered his family tree. For the first time they could link his identity to a family. In December 2022 they made it public. Yet the investigation did not end there. Because identifying his name did not identify his killer. The homicide remains open. Suspects still unknown. Motives still obscured. Evidence old, faded. Memories dim. The box still holds its grim secret. Why was Joseph taken? Why was he beaten? Why placed in a box, abandoned in the woods? Imagine the life before the box. A small boy, groomed and yet neglected. Clean enough to be trimmed and bathed. Bruised enough to be dead. The contradiction hangs heavy. Was he in a foster home that failed? Was he purchased, trafficked, mistreated? One lead suggested foster homes, another that he was bought. None proved. The scars on his body suggest repeated trauma. The malnutrition suggests neglect. The surgical marks suggest earlier medical care. Someone cared enough at one point, then something broke. The motive may be rooted in fear of discovery. Perhaps someone tried to make him someone else's problem. A child without name, without claim. The box is symbolic. A life boxed up, hidden, discarded. There is a twist here. The very person who cared enough to cut his hair and trim his nails is the same person who let him die. The same hand that cleaned him is the hand that placed him in death. And society for decades looked at him as the unknown boy. But now Joseph. A boy who had a name, who had family, who had roots. The motive may remain elusive, but the human tragedy becomes sharper. Investigators now pursue the motive through family history, through missing records, through DNA leads. Each piece of the puzzle illuminating the darkness. And yet the darkness holds firm. Now today the box lies empty but its echo remains. The little boy is no longer anonymous. He is Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The headstone at Ivy Hill Cemetery now bears his name and image. The city remembers him. The community remembers him. Yet the killer still walks free. The motive still hidden. The full story still unwritten. The endgame is not closure but hope for justice. For the living siblings, the relatives who now know the boy's face and name, the story opens a door. Investigators hope new leads will surface. Someone who knew the foster home. Someone who remembers the box. Someone who carries guilt. In the final framing, the tragedy of Joseph reminds us that every child deserves a name, a life acknowledged, even in death. That identity is more than a label, it is a claim to existence. For decades Joseph had neither. And that absence weighed on a city. As you sit with this story, remember the stillness of that woodland box in 1957. The darkness in the trees. The blank face of a boy no one claimed. But also remember the breakthrough of 2022, the name. And the promise, one day the person who placed him there will be found. The motive will be exposed. The story will be told in full. Until then, Joseph lies under the cherry tree at Ivy Hill. A boy 4 years old, his life ended but his name given back. We speak of him now. We remember him now. Because in that remembering, justice begins. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that refuse to rest.